Looking to hit that wildcard button in Game Week 7? Well, don't worry, because I've got you covered with the ultimate guide in today's video. Now, before we dive into today's video, I just want to say that I don't think Game Week 7, for me personally, is the optimal week to be hitting that wildcard button. We're just about to go into an international break, and we always see a lot of random injuries obviously occurring over this time period. So that potentially could happen, and maybe the team structure that you've gone for could be completely dismantled, of course, if there are a few injuries over that period. I think Game Week 8 for me, or Game Week 10 or 12 would be much better weeks to be kind of identifying, rather than going into an international break having just wildcarded. But obviously, if you've got transfers built up, that shouldn't be too much of a problem. First off, let's start off with the projected goal numbers from 11ify. I do feel like this is a really useful tool to obviously identify teams we want to be targeting from an attacking perspective. As we can see, there's no real shock. Kind of the standout teams so far this season in terms of those attacking numbers are top for the next few weeks as well. As we can see, City, Liverpool and Arsenal, really good projected goal numbers. But for us personally, I think for the next few, we're probably going to go without Liverpool players, and then around Game Week 10 would be starting to look to bring the likes of Mohamed Salah back in, you know, Jota, Diaz, whoever's performing at that point as well, with really good projected numbers past that point. I feel maybe going for the Arsenal 2 fixtures here decently. You know, we've got Spurs as well starting to come through with some pretty decent fixtures as well over the next few. Then obviously making that transition back to Liverpool around Game Week 10 as well. Standout for me as well has to be match day 9 for Manchester City. We're going to be looking at that as another opportunity to be triple captaining Erling Haaland against a very weak Southampton side as well. Spurs also make an interesting composition for the next few weeks as well in terms of those projected goal numbers as well. Match day 11 being their standout fixture as well. United do have a big pickup after match day 8, and I've been speaking about this United kind of fixture turn, if you like, in terms of both projected goals and of course in terms of clean sheet data as well, as we'll come on to look at. Definitely a team, if I wasn't a wild card this week, that I would be starting to look, or maybe kind of price up some assets for future transfers as well, because there's some really good numbers in there. Leicester go on an absolutely fantastic run, especially over the next 4. So the likes of Jamie Vardy or Mavididi could also be really good budget enabler picks to be going for over the next few weeks as well. Brentford have some pretty steady numbers as well, so their fixtures also correlate with some pretty decent attacking runs. So Mbeumo definitely going to be a must over the next few weeks. In terms of players I probably would be looking to avoid, we're probably going to be kind of, I would say, maybe down here, kind of looking at the Southamptons, the Wolves, teams like this for me, where I probably would be starting to look away from their players over the next few. Moving on to the next set, it is going to be clean sheets. And again, we can see it is those same 3 teams. So again, we're going to be looking for picks within these. In terms of the budget bracket, I probably would say Brentford and Everton definitely starting to enter the forte. Again, we can see this big United upturn around Game Week 8 as well, where the fixtures do take a big swing in terms of clean sheet percentages. So going for people like Mazwari or Dalot definitely could be on the menu as well. In terms of teams that with this wildcard we probably want to be avoiding, it is going to be those bottom set of teams there. You know, the newly promoted boys, definitely no Brighton defenders or Bournemouth defenders. Wolves make an interesting, maybe you could take a gamble on somebody like Aït-Nouri. If you look at his attacking data so far this season, it has been stupendous, and definitely a player I am keeping my eye on around that match day 10 period. So maybe if you wanted to take a gamble with him, you can bench him for the next 3 weeks, then start to play him in match day 10 where Wolves go on a fantastic run. Or what you could very easily do is have Ezri Konsa for the next 3, then make that switch to Aït-Nouri. That's my current plan with Konsa, and what I'm going to be doing is, of course, making that switch around about match day 10. In terms of predicted points for the next 5 game weeks as well, no real surprise here that Erling Haaland is leading the way, especially with that Southampton fixture in 9, looking very juicy on the projected goals front as well. Salah, I do think, obviously, with, as we saw with the good numbers after 10, it makes sense that he's also second on this list. Cole Palmer, again, a player that's going to be on a lot of people's radars after scoring 4 goals in the first half. A player that I'm actually quite surprised hasn't made this list is, of course, Phil Foden. Now, he scored in the Champions League in midweek and had a really good performance overall as well. So I am a little bit shocked that he hasn't made the list. Some other standout players for me are definitely the likes of Solanke, Maddison and Son. I think as well you've also got Brennan Johnson, who started the season absolutely wonderfully as well and could also be a fantastic player to go and pick up over the next few few weeks. That was all the data you need to make the best decisions this week. Now let's go and dive into my ultimate wildcard for Game Week 7. Wasting no time, let's dive into this team. First off, we're going to start off with our goalkeeper picks, and of course, we're going to go for David Raya. I do feel like he is proving his value so far this season at that 5.5 million range as well. The fixtures do get a little bit tricky after Bournemouth in Game Week 8. However, I do feel that he's been a steady kind of consistent player for that Arsenal side that, again, are putting up very low XG conceded. They do have some difficult fixtures, but maybe he's going to be, you know, kind of showing what he's shown so far early in this season, which is those save points. It is also a cheaper way into that Arsenal back line, and I think we will start to see some rotation with both Gabriel and Saliba. We've already started to see it with Ben White missing out on a few games. I do think it will happen with Gabriel at some point as well. I think Saliba, he probably is kind of the player that will see every single Premier League minute, or at least play in every single Premier League game. I'm not 100% convinced by Gabriel. I think he's got a great set piece threat, but again, how many more set piece goals is he going to score this season? Maybe 1 or 2, and that's something that you can't really bank on happening every single week. But Raya, I think for me, is that nice, easy way into the Arsenal back line. Let's move on into our defence. Let's start off with the playing defenders on the pitch. Sorry, we do have Pinnock over the next few, as we saw with the 11-5 model. Brentford have really good clean sheet data. Also, our other kind of bench defenders don't have the best fixtures this week, so I think playing Pinnock would be a really decent shout. Ped Porro's in here again. We saw with that 11-5 data, pretty good data, and again, he started the season fairly well. Spurs as well this season have been a lot more better defensively, conceding a lot less big chances, and also their XG conceded has been pretty impressive for a side that were very leaky towards the back end of last season as well. And then our final defender is going to be Rico Lewis. I feel for 4.7 million, this guy is an absolute steal. Now, we are obviously going to be entering the old pet roulette wheel and how that kind of favours our side or disadvantages our side. You know, there's swings to it, isn't there? When you get it right, it's brilliant. When you get it wrong, of course, you know, we all know how that goes. 1-pointers galore. But I think for the price point, getting into one of the best defences across the course of the past 6-7 seasons, the projected data as well is also looking absolutely fantastic for Manchester City over the next few. So for me, it makes complete sense to be going for somebody like Rico Lewis. I think that's a fantastic pickup at 4.7. We've also got other cheap defenders that can obviously rotate if he does start to be dropped. But I think the positions he's getting into, he looks absolutely phenomenal and could be a right steal at 4.7. In terms of the bench defenders, we do have Mykolenko and Dalot, again using the 11-5 clean sheet projected data. We can see that both of these sides have really good projected clean sheet numbers over the next few weeks, and Dalot has been a clean sheet master. Mykolenko at 4.3 as well could be a really cheap steal. I know a lot of people have seen that the Everton defence has been weak. However, Branthwaite is now back, and I will expect, you know, clean sheets to start returning with a quite positive fixture run as well on the horizon for the Toffees. Let's move on into the midfield. We're going to obviously have Brian and Mbeumo. This Brentford run is pretty decent. I can feel you can hold him all the way up till game week 18. The only thing I would say is they have struggled with Visser, and I did comment on this a few weeks ago. However, Brian and Mbeumo seems to keep doing what he's doing. He's a penalty taker. He keeps seeing price rises as well, and I don't expect that to stop anytime soon. But I would be a little bit concerned with a kind of Brentford's attacking output as a whole. But again, like I said though, the fixtures are definitely there. The projected goal numbers are pretty decent for a player that is going to be playing up front at times, has penalties as well. So for me, again, feels like a little bit of a no-brainer. Morgan Rogers enters here because, again, I feel for that price point, there isn't going to be anybody better or anybody we could find. Yeah, we could obviously drop him down to a 4.5 and just have him as a bit of a bench player, but at least Morgan Rogers has some attacking output. And I think for the price point of 5.2 million now, obviously if you've already got him and picked him up at 5, congratulations, well done to you, because he has been pretty prolific over the past few weeks. And I did say I would be happy for the price point that he is if he picked up, you know, 3 attacking returns in 6 games. He's already gone on to do that as well. So anything now for me is bonus. Obviously, those Villa fixtures do take a little bit of a decline around game week 10, but as you can see, we've got a pretty stacked side, and I would feel comfortable benching him most weeks. But if I did need him to come on, again, he is a player that does see decent minutes. Again, how that is going to depend with Champions League football and obviously other cup competitions progressing over the next few weeks. We are going to have to see how Emery manages his minutes. Saka's in here for the next 2 fixtures. I feel after that point as well, we will people obviously starting to look towards the Liverpool players with the projected goal numbers we did see. You've also got maybe Son as an option as well, and of course Cole Palmer as well. The reason we haven't gone for Cole Palmer in this side is I do feel the Chelsea fixtures are a little bit more difficult than people are actually giving credit for. That Nottingham Forest fixture on paper is a green, however Forest defensively since Nuno has come in have been one of the best sides for XG conceded, and they're quite a stiff defence, so I wouldn't be kind of sniffing my nose at it, to be honest. So I do feel that could be a little bit of a harder proposition for the likes of Cole Palmer. So I feel you might as well go for Saka, get the points for the next two, then of course maybe look to move on to him as well. Final midfielder is going to be a gamble. It is going to be Phil Foden, but watching him in the Champions League, it was a breath of fresh air. KDB out for a couple of weeks. This kind of 4 to 5 game week period where Manchester City have some absolutely delightful fixtures, I think it could be worth a little bit of a cheeky punt. Maybe a gamble. It is a gamble, like it really is a gamble, but he will be super low owned. He won't have, you know, too much competition and could be the differential that could absolutely fly you up the ranks. Again, though, same goes with Rico Lewis. You are entering the Pep roulette wheel and it does get a little bit dicey, but for me, he looked absolutely brilliant against, you know, Bratislava. Whether or not that can continue into the Premier League, whether or not he can kind of get back to the form we showed from him last season, I really hope so. And he's going to be one of my differential punts for the next 5 weeks, and a player that I actually might go and bring into my own team after this game week if he does start and look impressive. Final midfielder is going to be Garnacho. United have actually done really well in terms of XG created so far this season. I feel they've been a little bit unfortunate, especially people that have had obviously Bruno Fernandes. Garnacho has seen some benchings, but it seems like he's patched up that relationship with Erik ten Hag, and that might not even be the end of it, because if Erik gets sacked, there might be that new manager bounce that we typically see with sides, and I feel if any manager is coming in, they are going to be wanting to play Garnacho because he is fantastic, and the brief moments we've seen from him so far this season, he's definitely shown that, and his underlying data as well has been cooking. Before we move on to our strikers, I just want to say that if you are enjoying today's video, make sure you're hitting that like button, of course hitting the subscribe button as well, as we are trying to hit 10,000 subscribers on the channel before the end of the year, and it would be super impressive if you could help me hit that goal. Finally then, let's finish up with our forwards. We saw again with the good fixtures that Leicester have got coming up, and Jamie Vardy being a penalty taker, I did feel it could be worth maybe taking a little bit of a gamble in that forward position. Again, we do have Garnacho with great fixtures, so if it doesn't work out, we could very easily just drop him to the bench and not have to worry about him again. We've also got pretty good defensive cover as well on the bench if Jamie Vardy doesn't work out as a pick. But for me, the next 4 fixtures, definitely some room and definitely some scope for Jamie Vardy and Leicester to go and pick up some points. Haaland is going to be our captain. He's got the highest projected points for this week, and as we saw with the projected goals model as well, the data for Manchester City is looking very appetizing. I think realistically Haaland is probably going to be a captain all the way up until game week 11, so I feel like he is kind of going to have to be in your team for this period, and probably, like I said, up until game week 11 just going to be perma captain, no real kind of thought or kind of anything like that, and just stick with him for that period. Then we're going to go for Dominic Solanke. He's not seen too many minutes so far this season because he picked up that injury after game week 1. However, his underlying data has been stupendous, and a player that I would be absolutely gagging to go and get into my side as well. Spurs as well have started the season brilliantly in terms of those underlying data. They've got a good set of fixtures, and again, looking to that 11-5 model for projected goals, we can see decent returns expected for Spurs and hopefully for Dominic Solanke as well. That, of course, was my team, my wildcard draft for game week 7. Let me know what you think of it down in the comment section below, and if you've got any questions, let me know down in those comments. But thank you very much for watching today, ladies and gentlemen, and good luck in game week 7.